What is happening, Budget Builders, and welcome back to the channel. In our last video, we rescued this 1994 Trans Am GT after it had been tucked away in a barn since 2005. It had some running issues, so it had been parked then. We were able to rescue it. We did a full detail on this car, which I hope you all enjoyed. And in today's video, we're going to try to figure out what was going on with the car. We're going to attempt to get it running for the first time in 17 years. I really do appreciate all the comments. I read every single one of them that you guys put in there, and a lot of y'all had mentioned that the issue with this car was probably the OptiSpark. That's more than likely the reason the car actually got parked. So we're gonna check that over. So let's go ahead and get that battery pulled so we can get a new battery in it. I do wanna pull the spark plugs. If you noticed in our last video, we had that mouse nest. There's a lot of moisture here. We see rust on the pulleys. So let's go ahead, let's kind of tear this thing down a little bit, pull the battery out, pull this front panel off, some of the breather stuff going on here, so we can kind of get a better look at this engine and get those spark plugs pulled and get those cylinders soaked down before we start trying to turn it over. Oh wow. Even with it clean, you can't hide all that mold and stuff. Mass airflow sensor looks pretty good. What in the world? There is a replacement one of these that was actually in the car that looks about new. I think we found the reason why. I wonder if it was getting bad readings or something. You see the clamps were in a funky spot. This is folded over. This is a K&N setup here. You see hose clamps left kind of loose here. Some wiring messed with. You can see a different ground there. What are we getting into? Here's that replacement one that was in the car, and it appears to be new old stock. Doesn't look like it's ever been mounted or anything. His battery's a July of 2000. So I'm not even gonna try to charge it. I wasn't planning on it anyways, but it looked pretty nice. I was like, hey, this thing must have been fairly new when it got parked, but which I guess that's still 17 years, but 21 years, I'd say it probably needs to be replaced, huh? You can see that July of 2000 date code. We can also see that battery puked its guts up a little bit and ate the paint off there from battery acid. You see the little bit of battery acid down there. Not super rusty or anything though, which is good. There she goes. While we're under here getting that coolant drained, I think our best bet as far as getting these spark plugs out, and easiest, some of them, is going to be right under here, because we've got pretty good access to them. Ooh, aluminum heads. Come on, plugs. Don't fight me. Not too bad. All right. It's an older 906 AC Delco plug. See, pretty crusty. Definitely been in there a minute, but I don't see any rust or anything. Good, good, good. Next cylinder back here. Looks to be in pretty good order too. I definitely feel like I'm back to my technician days. Hanging over a small block. Just like working on a boat. I gave up here, I went back up underneath, and I was able to get those last two out of there, and they look good. This one right here has little, what looks like almost hairs, and that is just probably the lightest amount of condensation in there. I think we'll be okay. I am gonna jump up under here with my WD-40 and soak them down really good. I got that long spray nozzle that will soak up in there. This side's gonna have to be from the top because there is no access from the bottom. Let me try to get those plugs out. This is not because it's tight, this is because I have no leverage otherwise. Last one, 2 hours later. Whoever designed this car, it's just a small car with a V8 in it. Looks good. Whoever designed this didn't like mechanics. No, it's just the nature of a small car. 4 more pretty good looking plugs. Woo! Not bad, no metal on the magnet, so that's good. It's definitely due for an oil change 17 years ago. Hey, not bad. We've got a new filter here that I've already pre-lubed. We've got close to 5 quarts in there. I left a little bit shy. Once we run it, we need to top it off. If we run it. That's the plan, right? Always is. Our light on's back there. Nice. Battery's definitely dead in that. I remember it was hiding under the seat over there. Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Showing a full tank of fuel. I did not hear any kind of a fuel pump. I think we've soaked long enough. It's been, WD-40's been in there for a couple hours now. Let's bump this thing over and see if it does anything. Oh yeah! Doesn't seem to have any compression. I do want to check really quick just for the heck of it, and let's see if we have by chance have any spark. Now we don't have any spark. That's probably a good issue. That's probably the reason this car got parked, and more than likely it's because of that OptiSpark. Water pump driven at the backside at that OptiSpark. What do you think's gonna happen there? When this thing starts weeping, it leaks right down on top of the OptiSpark. And these original ones, and we'll find out here once we pull it out, did not have a drain port. So they would just kind of weep in there over time and never get back out, and they would just get full of coolant or water over time. At the same time, we are gonna go ahead and do that water pump because more than likely it was leaking and that's what caused it to fail. So we're gonna do it all at the same time, and that's why we went ahead and drained that coolant anyways. One thing I am gonna do, because I tend to befriend the people that I end up selling cars to, it just kind of happens that way, is throw some aluminum anti-seize lubricant on these spark plugs. So they didn't have them before, and thankfully they came out of there, but they was ratcheting all the way back out. Talk about a pain in the butt. So this will kind of help that, and it'll allow them to come back out in the future when they have to, a lot easier. Let's get this water pump off of here.
guess we should probably replace that belt. This here is not an original, but it kind of is. Maybe junkyard. Maybe that's original. Tell me though. What the new one has that this doesn't have is at the bottom is a vent. So this is actually probably the original. And I'd say it's probably our issue. I'd like to open it up and see what's going on in there, just for the heck of it. Excuse my mess of a bench. I have hardware strung out everywhere. This thing did not want me in it, but I want it in it. So, you can see it actually had sitting water in it, or coolant probably. That's crispy. You can see this is a little Mitsubishi. I don't even know if that's actually the manufacturer. What is that? That was probably from me. Pretty crusty though, and the contacts right here, I don't see how it could have made a connection in any way, shape, or form. Just a funky design, and it sucks they made it so hard to get to. Look how crusty that is. As far as getting this in here and located, it can only go in one direction. Let's see. I don't know if you can see that little double tang right there. And so that allows you to only clock it one way. And so what we'll do to help us just a little bit is pull this one out. And let's see where our double is. Kind of down on the bottom there, about dead center bottom. Not too bad. Okay, so we've got our water pump installed. We got those pulleys back on. We did go ahead and throw a new thermostat in there as well. Everything's basically buttoned up. One thing I've got to mention, and I should have noticed this or thought about this, the fan tray, the actual fan shroud with the fans on it, just clips right on there. Super easy. You just pop it up, comes right off, and makes a ton more room. This car isn't necessarily difficult. It is by far not been hard to work on, just very time consuming, a lot of little intricate things that you have to take step by step with this car. And but we're getting there. I think we're pretty dialed in there. I do want to go ahead and spin it over really quick, make sure everything sounds good. Let's check and see if we have fire now, and if we do, we'll start figuring out our fuel system, because we know our fuel pump isn't running, and even if it was, we probably wouldn't want it running the nasty gas that's in it up to our injectors if they're okay at all. Well, we still do not have fire, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. There is no doubt in my mind, as crusty as that OptiSpark ignition, as crusty as that OptiSpark was, it needed to be replaced. I think we would have definitely had running issues if it would have fired at all, which not having fire is still a good thing. I think we're coming down to having a definite no run issue, which is probably why this car was parked in the first place. There's actually no 100% positive way to test all this. We're just gonna kind of make sure all our connections look good. And I hate to do it because I'm not that kind of person, but we may have to throw some parts at it. So what you've got here is your ignition control module, this little goober, and we can see it is a factory GM part. And then that pretty crusty ignition coil, which probably wouldn't surprise me if it was bad. So taking a look here at the plug that comes into the control module, the black one, which is this right here, should ohm out to ground. That does, so we're good. And then we're going to take a look at the 2 leads that actually go to the coil, which is your pink and black here. And we're going to ohm it out and make sure it's making a good connection to the coil. And that 100% is. You can kind of hear the beep in here. That's telling us that we have a connection. Next one we have here is the black and white. Awesome. Okay, so last bit here is going to be the straight white one. And what we want to do is turn the car over and verify we have 1 to 4 volts coming in on that. I can see residual coming down, so I'd say we were okay. What do y'all think?
It's already bad.
Well, I gotta say, it's pretty cool that O'Reilly's had the system to be able to go through and check that ignition control module. I did not know that, and we do know that it is bad. So that's probably our issue, and it was probably the issue, because that is the original one. It showed the bad at low RPM, which would be cranking speed or right at idle, if you would idle, because it's bad. So that's good to know. It'll be here in the morning. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get in the back of the car here and start figuring out our gas tank, our fuel system, and probably try to get a fuel pump put in it.
Someone decided to run an oil pan over. I don't know why you didn't pull it out from under the car before you let it down. What a mess. With the car now firing, the next step is going to be to get the fuel system working. Now, again, with the design on some of this stuff for these 90s GM cars, I don't know. Don't ask me. You've actually got to, unless you cut the top out of the car, which is the top out of the trunk pan, which isn't going to happen, especially this style. Some of the later ones I'd considered if we could make it look nice afterwards, because you can just pull them right out. This one you have to cut all down the whole side because it has these long tubes that come out of the fuel pump and everything, and it's just not worth doing. So what you've actually got to do is we have to drop the rear end, and then we have to drop this exhaust out of this car. What in the world were they thinking? So let's go ahead and get this knocked out. It's not terribly hard. It's not incredibly time consuming. We can probably do it in about 14 hours and have it knocked out, so not a big deal. Let's go and start getting this thing dropped.
I don't know if you got to take them off.
Go. All right, look at that. Oh yeah. That's a good hammer.
You know it. Screwing it, but I'm just unscrewing the washer.
Okay, there's the heat shield.
What'd that give us? Any more? Not much.
It'd be all right.
Like I said, it's hanging on this hanger here.
Boing, boing.
Oh no. Oh, be careful.
There it goes. That ain't that big a tank. Okay, so up under here, you just unplug your wire from right there, and then we'll take these hoses loose, and then we've got a couple little vent hoses that go back to a canister in there. I might have to take the liner, wheel and liner off, but we should be able to get to those, and then I think we're gonna make this tank come out of here.
I don't know what's holding that in still. There's still something on that end, man. It's not dropping that end. It's just up against the exhaust there.
Huh? Yeah, but that side. Why is that side not dropping?
Because it's got a filler neck. The filler neck isn't the filler neck's this long.
Okay.
That's it. So we got to go out and over that exhaust. But it's not going to do it, is it?
It's not looking that way, but.
There. I'm going to try to hold this exhaust in.
Here, I'll hold it. I got it. I got it.
Holy doo-doo anyway.
We still have a mile. I don't know how we're gonna get back. Oh, it's so close now.
Kick it again like that.
There it goes. I don't know how we're gonna get it back up in there. But...
It's going to be empty for one.
Oh yeah, but
Instead of weighing 1,000 pounds.
does it weigh 1,000 pounds?
It's not light.
What?
Oh my goodness. There's nothing.
Oh gosh, what is that?
We break something?
No, it's still. What is going on up there? We're still attached.
Told you.
That's what I'm saying. Sure.
Oh boy.
Oh wow.
At least I bought the whole fuel pump instead of just getting the...
What?
Gimme!
Wow.
That's gross. Look down in there.
Look at the. It's like the beach down in there. That's a really bad tank.
So there's probably about this deep in here of just crust. The problem is there's no way to really drain this. We can vacuum it out, but this thing's gonna be a monster. That's a bad tank. I don't know about you, but I just don't think there's any way I'd feel good putting that tank in a car. It's just... Is there one in LKQ? I ain't go pulling one out of LKQ.
You only gotta drop a rear end and everything.
I'm not, that's too much. We're gonna put a brand new tank in it. That's all there is to it. What do you say we fire the car off on a little bit of starting fluid? Let's just see if it pops off. And let's put a new tank in it. What do y'all think? Let's at least see if it'll fire off. Let's give you guys a first attempt at running. I'm not gonna use ether. I'm just gonna use some carb cleaner, fairly mild, just to see if we can get a pop off. And if we do, I think we'll be all right. But I just don't think we can. I can't feel good about putting that tank in there. We can try to clean it. It's just way too bad. And someone would take it out and get stranded somewhere because it would just clog up the strainer. And we're budget, but you know, a tank's only $200. It's worth just putting a new tank in there. I've got days of work into this thing, figuring out, fixing everything that we did, going through doing the spark plugs, the water pump and everything. And then once we got to that point, actually diagnosing it and figuring out our sparking issue, I'm not gonna wait 2 weeks for a fuel tank to come in or however long it takes to find out if this thing runs. So this is some gas that we have. We're just gonna create a little injector here. We're not gonna spray ether or starting fluid into it. I'm just gonna mist some fuel in here with some gasoline with my little spray can. Let's see if this thing will run for the first time since 2005. Okay, go ahead. Ha-ha! Did oil pressure pop up at all? I don't know. They want it. Oh my flippin' goodness.
What? Oh my.
Oh, we missed that. Crap. We're gonna be making some fires with this thing once we get it going. All right.
Go ahead, crank it.
Go
ahead.
It tried. It shuts off by the time the oil pressure tries to move.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I've got to say, that is a win in my book. It is a runner. It sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty healthy. No knocking or anything. Our oil pressure gauge kind of fluttered a bit up and down a little bit. We did see how thick the oil was that came out of this thing. I imagine that sensor's probably gummed up a little bit. It sounds like it has oil pressure. You know, it's not as... We got it to fire off, and when they've been sitting this long, they'll be... We've had engines, you know, sit for a couple of years, and you crank them up, and they clatter and rattle. So I think we're okay. I think we're healthy. And we're firing now, we're running. That was that first start since 2005. Now we just gotta wait for a fuel tank to come in. We'll get this thing back together, and then we get to drive it. I was hoping to be able to run and drive it. This time, sometimes they just fight you. Sometimes it's not the way it goes, but I'm excited to hear it run. I'm excited to get it put back together. And in our next episode, we'll take this thing for a spin. But that is going to wrap it up. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the rescue of this car to this point. If you haven't already and you're enjoying what we're doing, be sure to subscribe button, notification bell. And if you've been along with us so far, we really do appreciate all the love and support. But that's going to wrap it up. Peace out. Catch you all on the flip side.